morning.
Morning.
Oopsie.
Cut me off.
Oops. Our heads. It's hard because of the other. There we go. Hi. Well,
Hello.
It's Friday.
No,
TG.
it's not Friday. It's Thursday.
It's not Friday.
Not at all.
No. Feels like Friday.
Yeah.
I don't know why it feels like Friday.
Maybe because we're up here at the lake.
So this is a chat. Lakeside chat.
Yeah. Actually, it could be a fireside chat because right back there is a fireplace.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Good to see you guys this morning. So glad that you're checking us out. Welcome to our Live at 11.
And we are not necessarily doing lives at 11. We did that for a long season. But now what are we doing?
We are recording our Live at 11 whenever we dang well please.
Yeah.
And we're posting them at 11. And so we're going to continue to post for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to continue to produce content that we hope is encouraging to you and will help you in your relationship with God and your walk. Sometimes we'll share things that are important to life at Thrive.
Okay. So it's not live at 11. It is
at 11.
Posted at some time. No, it's not even, we can't, well, we're learning how to schedule the post so it goes out at 11.
Mm-hmm.
We're growing into that.
Mm-hmm. We haven't learned anything over the last 6 months.
We've learned some things. There's some things that we're leaning into about the future.
Yeah.
What are we leaning into about the future? What do we think that people are talking about? What is church going to be like in the future?
Yeah. So we're going to spend the next few minutes just talking about some things that get us excited about the future, things that we're hopeful about, things that we think God is going to do with the church in general and maybe Thrive in particular. And far from it being all bad, I think there's some things that we're really excited about.
Yeah. I just love how God's voice creates opportunity and potential. And we've been preaching lately on something that we just really believe that God is bringing into focus in this season, that in some ways it's a remodel season, that we're not doing things like we did before. And it is a chance for some to put in place like new furniture, right? Like it's not, the house itself isn't all new, but new furniture and like new flooring and new paint on the walls. And so what are some of the things that you're leaning into, that you're excited about?
Yeah. So, when the church was unable to gather together in that large church setting, that Sunday morning, routine that we had, I think that anytime something happens like over and over and over and over again for a period of, not just years, not just decades, but maybe centuries, it can kind of become rote. And we can kind of lose the meaning of it or the importance of it or the value of it. And so I think that this has been a shakeup for a lot of us. Yeah. And so in some ways we get to sort of like reinvent who we are and how we do church and to really do it in the way that we feel like God is really calling us to do it, not just sort of adopting or inheriting something that was handed down to us. Yeah. Specifically one of the things that I'm really, really excited about is the basically we've been scattered, what I mean? Just like the early church was scattered. And whenever the church has been scattered throughout history and unable to, gather together in large numbers, we have become even more powerful. And one of the most impactful things that has ever happened with church when the believers had to kind of break up and go their own ways is that we became more missional. And we became better at connecting with people outside of the walls. Of the church.
Yeah, and I think that's because people couldn't just rely on coming together to a service and saying good enough. And they were living and working and doing business outside of the church, and they realized that the kingdom translates there and relationship with God translates there. And so that gets me excited too, that we aren't just relying on a gathering, but we are becoming gathered, like the gathered, right? Like that it becomes personal, where we're finding, where can we gather? Where do we see the kingdom of God come to life through us where we are? And I believe it's a time for creativity, to find how do we strengthen each other. It's that Ephesians 4, how Paul laid out the purpose of the church, that we'd be built up into maturity. And that still is the purpose, that there is still a strengthening and building up that happens without large group meetings. And so in some ways, again, those places that we relied on in the past that we can no longer rely on, it becomes like, all right, what is really God's purpose and design for this?
Yeah.
So I have my dream of the future is that yes, Sunday morning would be a place still for people to come in and connect, and then find places of deeper connection within the church outside of Sunday morning, outside of a large group service. So places where people are gathering around a meal and sharing insight, testimony, inside of who God is and what he's done for them, and to build into each other, to truly strengthen and encourage each other, to build into each other. So I love that casual approach of a meal and connected. Here's what's happening in my life. People know what's going on in my life, and I'm receiving care from people, and I'm caring for people. And so I love the potential in that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so, a year ago, one sort of evangelistic strategy or a way of kind of like helping people to know Christ would be, typically what people would do is they would, talk to them a little bit about Jesus, and then they would just invite them to church. And hopefully whatever it was that we were doing at church would be engaging to them, and would, they would stick around long enough to find Christ. I'm not sure that that's the most effective evangelistic model. What is very, very effective is when individual believers make connections with people in their world, and basically build a relationship and walk with them in life, and walk with them in their journey of faith until they come to faith, until they somewhere they step across that line, and suddenly they've discovered that they're walking with Jesus, and it's because of that individual person. It's because of you teaching them what why they watch how you live, and you do life together, and you do faith together. And if Thrive has a couple hundred people, if a couple hundred people were making those connections purposefully and sowing into the relationships with their next door neighbor or that coworker, and if we were being really, really purposeful about doing the work of the evangelist ourselves, man, I just get really, really excited about that. And I think it's actually a far more impactful way of doing ministry and doing evangelism than trying to drag people to a church service.
Yeah, I get excited about that too. It's what you're talking about is people actually living out their new creation, their new life in Jesus. And it's reproducing, isn't it? It's multiplying, because that is just the nature of how God designed life to be, right? Like you mature, you grow up, and you reproduce, and you can see that was just part of God's design. And so we are growing up in real places all across the church where we're growing up because we are connected, and we're in relationship, and we're doing these things together. And you guys know what momentum of doing something with someone, right? Like there was a time where we did Weight Watchers with some family members, right? Because it's like, hey, we're sharing texts about what recipes we're finding and how it's going, and we're encouraging each other. So we do these things together, and we gain momentum together in them. And I think that's a beautiful opportunity for the church of the future, which I think it's going to be really good, where we're no longer passive observers of these things, where the life of Jesus actually gets into the little details, molecules of our life. We're living it out.
Yeah. You've heard us say a few times that we believe that life is better in circles than in rows, and what we mean by that is that coming together on a Sunday morning to celebrate God and to do worship together and to take in, the word through a sermon together. That's like so good and so important. And we don't want to de-emphasize that. On the other hand, there is something that God can do in a small gathering where you're sitting across from someone and you're praying over each other and you're receiving prayer, where you are testing out your legs with a prophetic word, where, you may not be such a high quality musician that you can lead worship at church on a Sunday morning, but you could lead worship at your small group setting, and so that's just so powerful.
Yeah. So we're excited about, the fact that God's church is continuing to move, and it's on the move, and there's still so much possibility and potential. And so let's be praying for that. Let's be praying for what God has for us as his church in this day. So any final wishes, greetings, well-dos?
No, but we are excited, guys, and we're very, very hopeful for our future.
Yeah.
We can't wait to see what God is doing. He's already beginning to do all kinds of neat stuff. We've been hearing more testimonies in this season than we probably ever have in the life of Thrive. And so that's really cool. So so we can't wait to see what God's going to do.
So bless you guys, and we'll be posting sometime. So catch the posts, the sometime posts.
All right. Bye, guys. Well, drive me